Welcome back, guys. In this section, we are going to discuss about clause number 6 of ISO 45001 Safety Management System. So let us start. Clause 6.1 deals with the planning stage of the PDCS cycle, or you can say the whole system of safety, that is 45001. Clause 6 is all about planning, and this clause is very detailed. So do not rush and take your time to understand the requirements of this clause. At any time of the video, you can pause and rewind to learn the requirements. In this clause, the first subclause is about the actions needed to address risks and opportunities. Under this clause, the standard requires you to conduct risk assessment of routine and non-routine activities. And for risk assessment, the first step is to identify the workplace hazards. Hazards can be of following types: electrical, mechanical, psychological, chemical, biological, physical, etc. Considerations while identifying the workplace hazards must be given to shift hours, workers involved, lone working, supervision, design of workplace, tools and infrastructures, legal requirements, no noise, heat and cold, and emergency situations, etc. By identifying all these hazards and keeping in view the points mentioned in this column, you can identify nearly all the hazards that are necessary to perform risk assessment. One way to determine all hazards and risks is to use PASTEL framework, under which you identify political, economic, social, technological, legal, and environmental risks in a systematic way. So, for example, P is for political. This framework will enable you to identify all the risks that are present in a given project. The political risks may be the political stability of a project, the taxation system. Economical risk might be the availability of financial resources, inflation rates, exchange rates. Social risks can be the cultural values, the demographics, psychographics of the society. The technological risks pertain to the particular project in hand. L is for legal risk, like the regulatory rules like health and safety regulations that are applicable on your organization. And last E is for environmental, for example, impact of adverse weather, use of greenhouse products, etc. So by going through this PASTEL framework, you can identify nearly all the hazards. After identifying the hazards, risks, and opportunities, the organization then needs to address these risks through a hierarchy of control, which we are going to discuss in the next video. Using this hierarchy of controls, the organization needs to establish a documented procedure of assessing, addressing, documenting, and communicating the hazards and risks to all the workers. This task must be performed by a competent person, and it must be done at the planning stage, that is, while implementing clause number 6. Another important aspect of this clause is to ensure that the organization is in compliance with all the applicable up-to-date legal requirements. The sources of information from where you can get up-to-date legal requirements may include use of a occupational health and safety consultant, subscription to occupational health and safety institutes, or subscription to legal newsletters. Welcome back, guys. In this video, we are going to discuss about the requirements of the standard, which is 6.2 and is all about setting occupational health and safety objectives. There is a famous saying that never mistake activity for achievement, and therefore, I firmly believe that the objectives must be set that are achievable and are in line with the occupational health and safety policy of your organization. The purpose of setting objectives is to maintain and continually improve your occupational health and safety system. One way to set the objectives is to use SMART criteria, which means that the objectives are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. For instance, consider the two examples in the form of objective and identify which one fulfills the SMART criteria. To reduce major accidents might be your objective, and the same objectives can be written in another way, which is to reduce major accidents by 50% in 12 months from now. Clearly, you can see that the second objective is specific in a sense that we are intending to reduce major accidents and nothing else. Objective is also measurable, as we can also measure our performance at the end of the year, like have we achieved this objective or not. This objective, the second one, is also achievable as well, as we are not making it, or we are not promising it to make it absolutely zero. We are focused on reducing it by 50%. It is also time bound, as it has a starting date and an ending date. The standard also requires us to establish a way of communicating the objectives to the concerned people and regularly monitoring them and updating them as necessary. In this regard, some key questions to consider are: what will be done? What resources will be required? Who will be responsible to do a particular task? When you can say that it will be completed, the approximation, the dates, how the results will be evaluated, including the indicators for monitoring. So this is all about the clause number 6.2. In the next video, we are going to discuss the summary of this section of which discussed the clause 6 of planning. Thank you so much. Hello guys, in this video, we are going to learn about hierarchy of controls. Once you have identified, next obvious step is to apply controls to the evaluated risk so that any project or activity being carried out in the organization can be completed without causing injury or ill health to any employee. For this, we use the shown hierarchy of controls. Your first intention with respect to any risk must be to eliminate this risk altogether. For example, if any activity involves usage of a highly toxic solvent, then you can propose to do this task using robots without using or without involving any human being, hence eliminating the risk altogether. But usually, this type of control is not feasible for many organizations. So you can go to the next category of hierarchy of controls, which is substitution. So in this case, you can substitute the hazardous solvent with a lesser hazardous solvent. Next is engineering control. For example, if you encounter any sort of leakage current, then you can use GFCI or ground fault circuit interrupters to identify the leakage current and trip the circuit. So in this case, or in this example, this will be your engineering control. Fourth is administrative control. For example, usage of permit to works or other SOPs for safe work execution. Our last self-defense or last set of defense in hierarchy of controls is the PPE or personal protective equipment. PPEs are used not to prevent the ill health or injury completely, but as a mean to reduce the severity of hazard. For example, usage of hard hats, hand gloves, safety shoes, etc. This should be our last line of defense against injury or ill health. Welcome back, guys. Let us summarize what we have learned about this clause up till now. In this section, we discussed about planning stage of ISO 45001 standard. We started off with discussing different categories in which hazards are identified and how they must be identified. We have also discussed about one very important PASTEL framework which will help us in identifying risks properly. We discussed about the importance of setting SMART objectives and key questions to consider while setting these objectives. In the next section, we will discuss about the support necessary for achieving these objectives, which is the clause 7 of this standard.